Trevor, the traction engine, was enjoying his work in the vicarage orchard. Birds were singing and apples were ripening on the trees. It was a lovely day. "Hi, Trevor," puffed James. "You look as bright and cheerful as my red paint." "Oh, I am," replied Trevor. "What's that noise?" asked James. "It's the bees," laughed Trevor. "They're only these boxy things called beehives. I'm taking them to the station. The vicar says his bees make good honey and it's giving some of them to his friends." Just then, Boker arrived. He looked very concerned. "Take care, you two. Don't make the bees angry. They might sting you." James didn't like being told what to do by a diesel, so he buzzed away. "Goodbye, Trevor," called Boker, and he set off to see Duck at the main station. Bill and Ben, the tank engine twins, were busy arranging trucks, but they scampered off when they saw Boker. Boker just laughed. "I remember the first time I met those two. They nearly made my eyes pop out. Edward soon put a stop to their games." "Well, Edward is the only one who can keep Bill and Ben in order," chuckled Duck. "I sometimes call them the bees." "A good name," replied Boker. "They're terrors when they start butting around." Then James bustled in. "What's that, Duck?" he snorted. "Are you afraid of bees? They're only insects after all, so don't let that burst-box diesel tell you different." "His name is Boker, and he didn't I wouldn't care if hundreds were swarming around," interrupted James. "I might just blow the smoke and make them buzz off." "Buzz, buzz, buzz," retorted Duck. The next morning, James arrived at the station to collect his coaches. Lots of passengers were there ready and waiting for him. They were all excited and keen to get on board. The platform was crowded and the porter was in a hurry. He was pushing a trolley containing one of the vicar's beehives. "Mind your backs," he shouted. Then there was trouble. The beehive fell and broke open. The passengers gasped and the station cleared like magic. James was surprised. Then he heard a familiar buzzing, and he knew what it was. The bees were too cold to be cross, so they buzzed around James's fireman in his cab. They were hoping that he would remember their hive, but he didn't understand, nor did his driver. So, the bees turned to James. His boiler was nice and warm. James didn't like it at all. "Oh, buzz off, will you, you pesky insects!" James yelled angrily. Then, suddenly, one bee burnt its foot. "Oh, hot, hot!" it said. The bee thought James had burnt it on purpose. The bee had stung James right on his nose. Now, James had had enough. So had his fireman and driver. They didn't notice until too late that they have left all their coaches behind. They tried everything to get rid of the bees. First they tried taming them with something yellow like a yellow truck, as bees like things that are yellow. But to no avail. They then tried washing them off, but the bees clung harder to James' warm boiler. Then they tried smoking them off by going through a long tunnel. But still the bees wouldn't go away. "It's no good, James," said his driver. "We'll just have to go back to the orchard and fetch another hive." James's reply was drowned by the sound of buzzing. The vicar was waiting anxiously for James. When he arrived, the bees swarmed straight into their new home. "Come on, James," said his driver. "What you need now is a good hose down." James was relieved that there aren't any bees anymore. But on the way, he saw lots of passengers. He felt very hurt. All of them were wearing red noses. James thought they were only doing it so that they could tease him about his stunned because he got stung by a bee. He felt silly indeed. That evening, James was resting in the shed when the vicar came to see him. "Thank you for saving my bees," he said thankfully. "Oh no, not you too," gasped James. He noticed he had a nose too. "What's wrong, James?" asked the vicar. "Everyone is wearing red noses because they're teasing me about me being stung by a bee right on my nose. They don't know how painful it is to be stung by a bee," James said miserably. The vicar smiled. "James," he said, "they're not doing it just to make fun of you. They're doing it because it's Red Nose Day." James gasped. "Really?" he asked. "Yes," said the vicar. "It's a special event that happens every 2 years, and it's where people wear red noses and they have to do something special to raise money for the poor people in Africa. Although," he said, "it's a pity it's not Christmas, then we could just call you James the Red Nose Extension." His driver and fireman laughed, and they had red noses too. And this time, even James smiled. But instead they decided to call James the Bee's Knees, which means he thought they was more useful than ever.